In this video, I am going to show you how I made this top. It is completely customizable and you can make it to measure. You can make the bottom much longer or shorter, and you can make the cups any size. So to make this specific top, I used a weight 3 yarn. I used this KC, and it is a weight 3, and this is color Buttercup. I would recommend using a weight 3 yarn, and I would also recommend using a cotton because you will likely be wearing this when it's hot outside, and cotton is a little bit more breathable than some other fibers like acrylic. So for the top I will be making in this video, this is the yarn that I'm going to use. It is a cotton blend, and this one is actually a weight 4 yarn, but it is a bit of a lighter or a smaller weight 4 when compared to the weight 3 I used for the last top. They're very, very close in size. So you can use a weight 3 or a smaller weight 4. I am going to use a 4mm crochet hook. If you decide to use a bigger yarn or a heavier weight, like a true 4 that is a little bigger than this one, I would suggest sizing up to a 4.5. You will also need a stitch marker of some kind, and I recommend using a measuring tape because this project is made to measure. In this video, I am going to be making a size small, so I will tell you exactly how I do that, all of my stitch counts and measurements. This is going to fit a cup size AB, but I will leave in the description the measurements to use if you would like to make a cup size that is not A or B. So when I refer to the width, I'm talking about this part of the cup, not the trim. These granny stitches are not counted. So this will be the width, and then when I say length, this is what I am referring to if you are using those measurements in the description. So to get started, I am going to take my yarn and make a slip knot and put that on my hook. If you are making a size A or B cup, you are going to want your initial chain to be between 2.5 to 3 inches long. So I'm chaining 13. If you are making a C cup, you want yours to be about 3.5 inches long to 4. D cup, 4.5 to 5, so on. I would add about an inch each cup size you go up. Okay, so I have 13 chained here, and I am going to flip my chain over, and you are going to see these little bumps in the back of the chain. We are going to go directly into those little bumps. So I'm going to go right into that first one and do a single crochet. And we are going to do that all the way back down the chain. So go into this little back bump, pull up a loop, pull the yarn through both loops to single crochet. So I am going to do that all the way back down my chain, and then I will meet you when I get down to that last one. I am at that last bump. I'm going to go through, and in this last one, I am going to place 3 single crochets. So 1, 2, and 3 in that same stitch. And that is going to be the tip of our triangle. So I am going to use my stitch marker, and I am going to put the stitch marker in that second single crochet. So we did 3 in the stitch. I'm putting it in the one in the middle, the second. And now we're going to work back down the other side of our chain. So I'm going to go into that first stitch on the other side, just going around. So insert my hook, and I'm going to do a single crochet. And I'm going to keep single crocheting down this side until I get to the end. Alright, so I am at that last single crochet down here at the bottom. So I am just going through and single crocheting into it. And now that we've gone all the way down, we are going to turn and go right back up and single crochet in all of the stitches that we just made. So I'm going to turn my work So I am going to go right back into that single crochet that we just made and place a single crochet. And now I am going to go all the way back up this row and single crochet in each stitch. So we are coming up on these 3 single crochets in the same stitch. So I am putting a single crochet in the stitch right before the stitch marker. So to count rows, every time that I do 3 single crochets in the stitch marker space, I'm counting that as a row. So I strongly suggest using a piece of paper and a pen or a counter on your phone to keep track of your rows. So we've already done 1 because we made the 3 single crochets. And now we are about to make another one. So this is our second row. So I'm going to remove the stitch marker and place 3 single crochets in that stitch. So now I'm going to put that stitch marker in the second or the middle single crochet that we just made. So I already marked down that this is our second row, so I'm just going to keep on going, and I'm going to single crochet back down the other side of our cup. So I'm back down at the last single crochet of this row. I am going to single crochet into it, turn my work, and I am going to single crochet back up until I get to the stitch marker again. Alright, so I just did a single crochet before the stitch marker. I'm going to take the stitch marker out, do 3 single crochets into that same stitch. Put the stitch marker into the middle stitch. So that is my third time making the tip of the triangle, so I'm just going to keep track that we're on row 3. And I am just going to keep going. So you are going to keep placing a single crochet in every stitch and doing 3 single crochets in the top middle stitch. For a size small, I am going to do 14 rows because this yarn is a little bit thicker, but if I was using a weight 3 yarn, I would do 15. Or you could use the measurement of the bottom of the cup, which should be about 5 inches for a size small. So if you're making a small, once you've got the width of 5 inches, I'll meet you back here. If you're making another size, you can check the description for how wide you should make your cup. Okay, so I have done 14 rows. This is how mine is looking so far. And my width is at about 5 inches, so we are good there. And so now I am going to work the last single crochet into that last stitch. So we are done with this solid part of the cup. If you are making this for yourself, you can hold it up and measure it and see if you have enough coverage or the coverage that you're comfortable with. If you want to make the cup a little bit larger, just keep going. But this is about the size that I like to make mine, so I'm going to stop there. Now we are going to make these granny stitches along the side as the edge of our cup. So I already made my second one, so I am going to add that to this one. So to do that, I'm going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. And I am going to turn my work. Now I am going to skip 2 stitches. So 1, 2, and I'm going to go into that third stitch with a double crochet. So pull up 3 loops, pull through 2, pull through 2, and I'm going to do 2 more double crochets in that stitch, yarn over, pull up, you have 3 loops on your hook, pull through 2, pull through 2. So 1 more. So this cluster of 3 double crochets is a granny cluster. So we are going to make a granny cluster in every 3rd stitch. So I'm going to skip 2 stitches and go into the 3rd. So I am again going to skip 2 stitches and I'm going to granny cluster right here into the stitch that is right before my stitch marker. Now I am going to chain 2 and I am going to place a granny cluster right here in this stitch on the other side of the stitch marker. So now I'm just going to keep going with skipping 2 stitches and doing a granny cluster all the way back down this side of my cup. So I am coming up to my last stitch here. So I have 2 stitches and then this will be my last stitch. I'm going to yarn over and place a double crochet into that last stitch. And that is how we're going to finish. So it should be the same on both sides, starting off with a space like that. So now we can go ahead and tie off, and I am going to leave a tail to be woven in. So now what we're going to do is expand the side and connect our cups together. So I am going to grab my yarn and I am going to make a slip knot. And for this piece, I like to chain between 15 and 20. For my yellow top, I chained 20, and that gave me a little more coverage in the back, but I don't want quite as much coverage on my back with this one, so I'm just going to chain 15. So I chained 15. Now I'm going to take my cup, and I am going to insert my hook into this first stitch, and I'm going to single crochet. So pull up 2 loops, pull through both. So now we are attached. And now I am going to single crochet in every space all the way down. And I'm coming back to this double crochet, and I am just going to place the stitches directly into the double crochet space. That's a little bit easier. So now we are going to attach the other cup. So I'm going to grab the other cup, put it next to this one, and insert my hook, pull up a loop, and single crochet. And now I am going to keep doing a single crochet in every stitch all the way across the bottom of this cup. So now I am at the other end of my cup, and we are going to chain 15 so that we can be symmetrical on both sides. Okay, now I'm going to turn my work. And we are going to work back down our chain and our cups with single crochets. So I am going to go into that next single crochet and place a single crochet. And I am going to keep going, placing single crochets in every stitch all the way back down. So we just single crocheted all the way back down the bottom of our top. So now I am going to turn my work. I am going to chain 3. I am going to skip 2 stitches, so 1, 2, go into that third stitch with a granny cluster. So I'm going to make a cluster of 3 double crochets. And that is how I am going to continue along the bottom of my top. So I am going to again skip 2 stitches, find that third stitch, go into the stitch, and place a cluster of 3 double crochets. So this is how it's looking so far. And I am going to just keep on going down the rest of the border of my top. So skip 2 stitches, 3 double crochets, keep going, and I will meet you when I get back down to the other end. So I am coming up on my last 3 stitches here. So I'm going to end my rows a little bit different than I would if I was just doing a normal granny stitch. So the way that there's an opening on this side, I want to create another opening on this side because this is where we're going to put our straps through. So I've got 3 more stitches. I'm going to yarn over and I'm going to place a double crochet in that very last stitch. So now that we have that double crochet, we are going to go back the other way. So chain 3, turn your work, and I am going to place 2 more double crochets into this space. This is going to count as our first double crochet. So when I put 2 more here, that's going to be our first granny cluster of this row. So I've got my first granny cluster. And now I am going to yarn over and do another granny cluster into the next space. So now I've got 2 granny clusters, and I'm just going to continue in every space all the way down this row, doing granny clusters. So once I get back to the end, I will meet you there. So I am on this last space here. I am going to put 3 double crochets into that space. And this is how it's looking so far. And this is how we're going to continue until we've got 7 rows of granny clusters. So to keep going on to the next row, I'm chaining 3, turning my work. Now I am going to place 3 double crochets into that next space. And just keep on going all the way down this row, placing granny clusters in every space. All right, so now I'm at the end of this row. This row ends in a cluster, so I am going to yarn over, insert into the top of that chain 3, and place a double crochet. So I'm just going to continue chain 3, turn my work, and keep on going So I will meet you back here when I have 7 rows finished. Alright, so I am finishing up row 7 now. So it started off with a space, and it is going to be ending off with a space. So I am finishing up this cluster of 3 double crochets. And now I am going to put 1 double crochet in the top of this chain 3 of this row. So I am going to finish at 7 rows. This is the length that I like, but you could really keep going for as long as you want to. If you want to have a little bit more coverage on your midsection, you can totally do that. Just keep going, adding rows, but you need to end in a row that has a space on either side, because this is where our straps are going to go through the top in order to tie it in the back. So you can keep going for as long as you want and add as much coverage in the front as you would like. But when you are finished with adding length here, we are going to do single crochets up the side and add some straps up here at the top. So to do that, I am turning my work just to be a little bit easier because we're going to be working this way. So I'm going to chain 1. I'm going to place 2 single crochets in this space. And now I am just going to go through and single crochet into each stitch all the way up the side. And we will not be going back into these stitches that we're making right now, so it's okay if they're not totally perfect or perfectly symmetrical on either side. Just do your best to try and get every stitch, but these can be a little bit difficult to see when working back up the side. Now I just got to this corner. I'm going to put 2 single crochets here just to help me turn that corner a little bit more comfortably. So 2 single crochets. So I'm going to keep going, single crocheting. I'm going to do 2 single crochets here to turn as well. And I'm going to keep single crocheting until I get up to this point here. And then I'll meet you back here so that we can make our straps. Alright, so I have single crocheted up the side. I just put a single crochet in this stitch here, and now I've got the chain 2 for this corner. I'm going to single crochet directly into that corner space. So I'm not going through an actual stitch. I just went directly into that space. So single crochet, and now we're going to chain for our strap. So I am making like a size small/medium, so I'm going to chain 170. You can make your straps as long or as short as you would like. This is again super customizable, but I will in the description leave my suggestion of how many to chain based on what size you're making. If you're making it for somebody else, I would just use those suggestions. But if you're making it for yourself, you can always kind of try it on after you've chained a certain amount and see how you feel with the straps. So now I'm going to chain 170. So now that I am at the chain length that I would like to be, I'm going to insert my hook into that first chain stitch, and I'm going to slip stitch. And I'm going to do that all the way back down this chain. So insert, pull up a loop, and pull that loop through the loop on your hook. So again, insert, pull up a loop, pull that loop through your hook. So I am going to slip stitch all the way back down this chain, and then I will meet you when I get to the bottom. So I just got down to the bottom. I am going to do my last slip stitch. So now I am down to that space that we started in. So I am going to do a single crochet. So I'm going to keep going with the single crochets. When I get here, I will chain the same amount and do the same thing that I did on this side. And then I will meet you back when I am finished with that. So now I'm going to do a single crochet in that space and then keep on going with single crochets all the way down. So I am going to keep single crocheting all the way down with 2 single crochets in each corner just to help us round the corner, and keep on going until I get to this corner over here where we started. So when I get there, I'll meet you back here. So I got all the way back to the bottom, so now I am going to go into that first single crochet. I'm going to skip over our chain 1, go right into the single crochet, slip stitch, and now I'm going to tie off. So now the very last thing that we have to do is just weave in our end. I crocheted over my other ends as I was going around with the single crochets, so I just have this one left. So I am taking my darning needle. You can use any type of darning needle, but I really love these. Now I am just going to go back and forth. I like to go a bunch of different directions when I weave in my ends. I feel like that makes it more secure. So I've gone back and forth a couple of times. Now I'm going to go back this way. And then go down. All right. So I am going to go ahead and just cut off that end now that I have woven it in. And now we are completely finished with our top.